I'm going to be making some jerky, but not beef jerky. Today I'm going to be making chicken jerky. So what I have here are 3 boneless, skinless chicken breasts, probably somewhere between 1.75 pounds and 2 pounds. These have been in the freezer for about 30 minutes just to give them a little more body, make them a little firm so we can slice them easier. All I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start slicing and try to make thin strips. It doesn't matter how wide they are, it's how thin or thick they are. I'm going for somewhere around 1/4 inch thick. And if you're slicing partially frozen meat, remember that first time you press in, it's going to feel like your knife is dull. It's not, it's just getting through those frozen muscle fibers. And when you get down to the end there, if you need to, go ahead and turn it. If some of the pieces end up being a little thicker, that's fine. They're all going to get dried out nicely. I'm going to go ahead and finish slicing these up, and then we'll get them into the marinade. So my chicken pieces are in this bowl, and now we're just gonna add our marinade and get these seasoning because they're gonna season overnight. We're not gonna be smoking these until tomorrow. First ingredient is about 1/2 cup of soy sauce, 2 tablespoons of lime juice. That's the juice of maybe 1 good sized lime. 1 tablespoon of Cajun seasoning. You can use any seasoning you want here. This is my homemade Cajun seasoning. And 1 tablespoon of cracked black pepper. Now we just get dirty here. Make sure everybody gets coated here, especially in all that pepper that's in there. A lot of the liquid's gonna come off after this is done marinating overnight. We'll dry these off before they go in the smoker. So you wanna give it a chance to penetrate, and those surface seasonings like the black pepper, like the Cajun seasoning, you wanna stick there. So get everybody coated. That's where gloves come in handy. All right, that looks good. I'm gonna transfer this to a Ziploc bag, get it in the refrigerator, and I'll see you back here tomorrow. All right, our chicken has marinated overnight, and if you'll notice, there's not a lot of leftover liquid on it. I dumped it straight from the bag into this container, and there's not a lot of, soupy marinade left. So if you use just the right amount of marinade, you don't end up having to dry it off as much. And this, I'm really not gonna have to pat these dry at all, I don't think. So let's go ahead and start getting them on our racks. Just gonna try and space them here so they have some air around them, help them dry. Probably be using 2 racks today to hold all these. If they have to touch just a tiny bit, that's all right. They will shrink up, but you wanna try and keep them spread out if possible. Some of these little ones here, these edge spaces. That's a little chunky one right there. He might fall through. We'll see. Let's get our second rack. Just let it rest right on top here. If at this point you wanted to add any other seasonings like some red pepper flakes or some more cracked black pepper, this would be the perfect time to do it, to sprinkle it on these chicken pieces. But for me, these are just right. All right, there we go. Let's get them out to the smoker. All right, our smoker is up to temp right here. The target temp for the first portion of this jerky making is 225 degrees. I'll explain a little bit more about that in a few minutes, but let's get these jerky pieces in the smoker. As you can see, I have my ambient temperature probe on the top rack here. That's all it's gonna do, that rack, is just hold this probe. Jerky's in, let's get it smoking. So for this chicken jerky making process, it's important to follow some safety procedures. Now, I'm not making this for long-term storage, so I'm not using any curing salt in it. This is gonna be short-term, stored in the fridge. But chicken is different than beef when you're making jerky. There is a chance of developing salmonella bacteria on here. So the first part of this process, 1 hour at 225, because basically we're cooking this chicken first. We're getting it to 165 degrees internal minimum. That first hour should take care of that. Then for the next 3 to 4 hours, usually it only takes about that long, I'm dropping the temperature down to 170 to continue that drying process with some smoke. What I'm using today are hickory wood chips because I love hickory on jerky. Chicken, turkey, beef, doesn't matter. I just love the taste of hickory. So we're going with hickory. So for the next hour, 225, get this chicken cooked safely and let the drying process continue. Bring you back when it's time to check it, lower the temperature. All right, we've been going for an hour now. Smoker temp's been holding right around 225. Got good smoke, but it's time to check these chicken pieces and turn our temperature down. Ah, that's looking good. Getting those first hints of jerky development. The edges right there, you can see they're starting to pull in and retract, getting shrinkage there. It's looking good. All right, let's reset our temperature down to 170 and keep smoking these chicken jerky pieces. All right, our temperature's been set at 225. I'm gonna take it down to 170. Good with that. Bring you back in a few hours and we'll check and see how our chicken jerky's doing. All right, we are about 3.5 hours into this. The first hour was at 225. The second 2.5 hours were about 170. You can see we're holding 168 right now. Let's give this a check and see how our chicken jerky's doing. Oh, you're definitely starting to look like jerky there. Might be a little difficult to see in this light, but you can see how it's bending there. It's still not breaking. It needs to be a little drier. Some of the thinner pieces might be actually closer. Let's take a look at this one. This one looks kind of thin. So I want it to, yeah, you can see how that's starting to break there. So that's good. But I don't mind it drier, so I'm just going to leave that in. I'm going to say we probably have another hour to go here. So close it up. Let it keep smoking. See you in about an hour. All right, it's been another hour, so we are at a total of 4.5 hours. First hour at 225, the remainder right around 170. You can see we're at 175 right now. Let's check this jerky because I think we're probably done. Oh, that's looking really good. That is jerky. That is looking really good here. Let me get a piece out of here. It's good looking jerky. Now I could definitely take this further, get it drier and drier for preservation, but as I said, I'm not going to preserve this. This is going to go in the refrigerator, but this amount, it'll be gone in a couple days. Let's go ahead and get this off, get it inside, and have a taste. Here we go, our chicken jerky. When you start with 2 pounds, this is about what you end up with. It shrinks, it dehydrates, and this was not done in a dehydrator. We were using heat to help remove the moisture. You could just as easily do this process in the oven or in a dehydrator, but the key with chicken is you got to get it cooked first. You got to get it to that 165 degrees to kill the bacteria before you start drying. If you want to do it another way, that's completely up to you. I choose to do it the safe way and cook it to that safe temperature before the drying process begins. And again, I'm not doing this to preserve it, so there's no curing salt in this. This is going to be gone within a couple days, but man, look at that. Great color. The smell is awesome coming off of this, even off of a dried piece of meat because of that marinade and those spices in there, especially that Cajun spice that I used. You can use any spice you want, but for me, I really like the Cajun spice on chicken jerky. What can I say? It's time to taste. Now I'm going to taste 2 different pieces here. One of the ones that's very thin, so very dried out, and one that's a little thicker, a little meatier. You know, it could have gone even another hour or so, those pieces, but for me, that's fine. I actually like jerky when it's got sort of a variety of textures and thicknesses there. Let's go with that thin piece first. If for whatever reason you are avoiding red meat, do not hesitate to make jerky out of chicken or turkey. Really, once you get it to this point, the flavors that you put into it sort of go front and center. You almost forget that it's not beef. You just have a great flavor, great jerky texture, really, really good. Now a piece that's a little more meaty. Same great flavor, a little more bite to it because you're biting through some of that chicken that isn't quite fully dried out yet. Still very dry and it's jerky, but a nice little bit of bite to that. So remember, jerky doesn't just have to be made from beef. And as long as you follow some safety procedures, especially for the cut of meat that you're going to be using, you should be fine. And if you're doing it like me, where you're going to put it in the refrigerator afterwards and not keep it for very long, this is really the way to go.